All right, if you are someone who does not think financial fees make a difference in your retirement plan, then I need you to pay attention, listen up. The Department of Labor says that just a 1% fee can lower your retirement savings by 28% over 35 years. So let's break this down with some real numbers and think of it this way. You've got $1 million in your 401k. You lose 25% of it to taxes. You lose over 25% of it to fees. You get to enjoy around $500,000 of your million, half of the money that you had saved. So, Jimmy, talk to us about this. Are people aware of this, and what can we do about it?
No, I think people are not aware about this. And, a couple of things, there's a lot of things in retirement that you cannot control. Like most advisors, we cannot control the direction that the market's going to go, right? If there's going to be a war in the Middle East that's going to impact your portfolio, we literally have no control over that. Right. But there are many things that an advisor does have control of that could literally impact the retirement of your portfolio. And those things are what we always talk about. Taxes is something that you can actually have a little bit of control over and save some money. But the other one is fees. And we see it all the time. I'll tell you the biggest culprits whenever we do a portfolio analysis are called those expense ratios. We see them in mutual funds, where it's just a hidden fee that people are literally not aware of. But you may have your statements that you get every single month, and it says you had a plus or minus gain or loss for the month or the quarter, whatever the case may be. But you do not realize that that's not what you actually should have made, because you may be in some investments that have embedded fees. And so those are those expense ratios in mutual funds. If you own any mutual funds, what we see is oftentimes you are paying more in fees and not necessarily getting any value out of it or the value that you should be for those fees. It's really just money going to the management companies of those mutual funds. So that's one of the biggest culprits we see. And by reducing that, I mean, we've seen fees as high as 1%, where we have types of investments that we see on our end that could be a fraction of that cost for very similar results, sometimes better, sometimes slightly worse. But generally speaking, you're in the same ballpark for significantly less fees. And the other thing I'll tell you, Casey, that I see all the time are these variable annuities. People come in all the time with variable annuities, and they do not realize that with those variable annuities are essentially invested into mutual funds, into what we call sub-accounts. But with those fees are even higher than the, say, 1.5% that we usually see in investment accounts. In variable annuities, sometimes they're as high as 3%. So anytime you have these types of accounts that are eating away at your gains, it will compound over time. So it's definitely something that people want to take a look at.
For sure. I think it's really easy to overlook those small numbers that are hiding in the fine print, but over time they can quietly chip away at that nest egg. So I want our listeners right now to think, when was the last time you actually sat down and took a good look at what you were paying in fees? It's really something that you need to think about. So let me ask you this, Jimmy, how often should somebody be reviewing the fees that they're paying? And what's the best way to start that conversation with their advisors? Because it can be an uncomfortable one.
I say that you got to at least get that portfolio analysis once, just because most people never get that report. And the one thing I would say to anyone listening out there is, if you have an advisor, you kind of can't get a second opinion from the person that put you in whatever you're in, right? Because I don't think you're going to get an opinion from your advisor that's going to say, oh, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, you're right. I actually do have you investments where the fees are not as reasonable as they should be. When you're looking at your portfolio, it's important to try to get a second opinion from a third party. We utilize tools like Morningstar, which is very well known within the industry, and they will give us unbiased third party analysis of the type of fees people are paying, the type of performance that they're getting. So sometimes people may be taking on more risk than they really expect, or they may not be being rewarded for the amount of risk that they're taking. So that's really important as well. I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. I met with a couple this week, and they had $500,000 in their 401k. They actually were one of those common examples where people had a 401k during their working years, retired, and just kept the money there. And they said, you know what, Jimmy, it's okay because we don't have any fees there. I was like, okay, well, if you don't mind, do you want me to take a look at that? We do a complimentary portfolio analysis, kind of see where you're at. And, they're very open to that, which I commend them on. Well, we looked at it, Casey, 1.35% expense ratio.
Oh, wow.
Right? This is without getting any advice. They do not have an advisor. It's just sitting in a 401k, probably in like a 60-40, cookie cutter portfolio. No tax planning, no income planning, and they're paying 1.35% in expense ratios. I mean, when I told them that, they literally almost fell off their seat. So it's important. People out there don't have the tools available to do this analysis. So you want to engage in somebody. And that's why, the people out there listening, if you're sitting there and you're unsure, you just retired, you have that money sitting in your 401k or you rolled it over, give us a call because we will do that portfolio analysis just like we did for that couple. And we're going to do it at no charge. It's going to be complimentary, but you'll get a deep dive into the type of fees you're paying, the type of risk that you might be taking. So I encourage you, give us a call. We got 5 spots available this week. 702-744-8344, and you can get on my calendar.
Do not miss out on this chance to meet with Jimmy and get your big questions answered. He's excited to help, but spots are limited. So pick up the phone, dial 702-744-8344, and the office will help you find the next convenient time on the calendar. Remember, there is no obligation attached to this either. This is a complimentary consultation, but you've just got to call 702-744-8344. We are standing by right now to take your call, or you can always get connected online. You can find us at rightpathwealthmanagement.com. All right, Jimmy, it is that time of year. Are you a college football fan?
I am, and my teams are doing well. UNLV, I think we're 3-0, so we're doing pretty good right now.
All right, I love it. Well, I'm so excited we're back in action. I'm a huge Georgia Bulldogs fan. And as a huge Georgia Bulldogs fan, former Alabama head coach Nick Saban was our kryptonite for so many seasons. However, I am able to acknowledge and respect the talent that he has as a coach and the amazing success that he found during his career. Now, currently, Coach Saban is retired from coaching. He's in his second season as a co-host on ESPN's Game Day, but he was recently asked if he missed anything about coaching college football, and his answer was being part of a team. Let's take a listen to Coach Saban.
The relationships that you have with players and coaches and people in the organization and how you can impact them. And, I've been a part of a team since I was 9 years old playing Little League Baseball. And I just had a tremendous fear that I would really, really miss it. And that part I miss. But the working 14 hours a day, the recruiting, the changes that we're going through in college football, we don't have any regrets.
So let's relate this to retirement, Jimmy, because I see a lot of parallels. When you're in the workplace, that's also like being a part of a team. So while some people may miss their teammates when they leave the workplace, I want to ask you, what kind of new team are you able to introduce your clients to when you're working with them through their retirement planning?
Well, what we see is that when people are retiring, not only do they lose, their coworkers as their teammates, but they also lose a lot of the foundation of what they didn't realize were their teammates, right? A lot of that is like the HR department. They didn't realize that their HR department helped with their investments by setting up that 401k. They help, whenever there's open enrollment for your insurance, you went to your HR department for that. Sometimes you have life insurance within your HR department, those benefits. So there are a lot of foundational things within your life that you don't really think about because your teammates are taking care of that. And time again, I see that when people go into retirement, their heads are spinning. Usually they're at that age where maybe they don't have any health insurance. So they got to think, do I have to get, my own plan, or am I eligible for Medicare? At that point, how do you even sign up for Medicare? How do I handle my taxes? Because I know it's a lot more complicated in retirement. They get to that stage where they're thinking about estate planning. How do I make sure that all my assets go to my heirs and not to like probate court and things of that nature. And then how do I invest my money, right? I got that big 401k that I've saved for, but how do I actually get that money out? So there's so many different moving parts. I always joke with my clients that most people, once they retire from their job, but what they retire into is just a bunch of appointments, right? They got to go see their doctor. They got to go see their health insurance guy. They got to go see their lawyer, their tax guy, their investment guy. So there's so many moving parts once you get to retirement, especially those early years when you're just trying to get comfortable and make that transition. In our office, we like to kind of play that quarterback role. We like to give them the comfort because we have resources either within our office or professionals that we strategically align ourselves with. So whenever there's a question about Medicare, we can get them on the right plan. Whenever they need to create estate documents, we can make sure that they have the resources for that. We can help with their insurance needs, whether it's life insurance or insuring their income. We always talk about taxes and trying to strategize there. And then also, of course, their investments, right? How do we create income out of that? There's all these different professionals needed for that. So we really, in our office, we play that quarterback role to make sure that it is a simple, easy transition for those people going from working years into retirement and basically introducing them to their new team.
I think something a lot of people don't think about is the emotional side of retirement. When you're leaving the workplace and going into retirement, there is an emotional aspect to it. So thinking about that, I heard this clip from a comedian this week, Jimmy. I'm not sure if you're a Jeopardy fan, but my fiance and I, we are obsessed. I watch Jeopardy every single night, and it started with my parents. My parents were always Jeopardy watchers, so it's something that I've been into since I was a kid. But this week, it started its 42nd season, and no surprise to me, it's still ranking among the most watched TV game shows out there. And a comedian, Ryan Beck, I heard this week, was talking about Jeopardy, and he loves that it has not changed the format over the years from when they come back from that first commercial break. Let's take a listen to this real quick.
And they interview the three people, and they have nothing to say. They just need one fun fact, and they got nothing. They're coming up empty. Because these three people have worked their entire lives to get on to Jeopardy. That's their fun fact. They're on Jeopardy now. So at a party later, they can be like, I was on Jeopardy one time. But they can't be on Jeopardy and be like, I'm currently on Jeopardy. The host just comes over. Deborah, it says here that you once took a bus to Delaware? That's right, I did. It was a pretty big bus, so...
It's so true. It's the cringiest part of the show, but this got me thinking, Jimmy, just like these Jeopardy contestants who their biggest dream is to get on Jeopardy. They work so hard their whole lives to get there. Many people in a similar fashion work their entire lives preparing financially for retirement, but they forget an important part and may not plan for what's going to give them that purpose after their work chapter ends. So can you talk to us a little bit about how you're helping your clients consider the emotional side of retirement before they get there?
Yeah, we talk to our clients all the time about this. I think we've mentioned it a few times on our show, but it's really not only getting to retirement, the numbers are important, making sure that you've saved enough and then you have a plan for how you're going to distribute that money to do all the fun things. But you also have to know what are those fun things that you want to start doing. And it's important to have some type of emotional attachment to that, because what we've seen is that people love the idea playing golf all day or playing pickleball all day. But a lot of times they're thinking about that because, they took a day off from work and they played golf and they're like, I could do this all the time. But once you're not working, you start to realize that it's hard to play golf or pickleball. Maybe not pickleball because people are avid fans of that. But, some of these things you can't do 5 days a week. Right. And you want to create some type of meaning and, something you can get out of bed for every single day, whatever the case, whether it's bettering yourself or getting involved in the community. So I think the retirement planning, there's two halves to it. Really, the numbers are really important, and we focus on the numbers. How do we be very, very efficient? But the other side of the coin is how to make sure that you, as a retiree, you can really fully enjoy and make it meaningful in your life. So I think it's super important to plan that part of your retirement as well. And that's oftentimes a missed piece of the plan.
Yeah, the money is important to have a plan for, but that emotional aspect is really something that you've got to plan for as well. And thankfully, Jimmy and the Right Path Wealth Management team can help you account for every single aspect of your retirement journey. This is something they address in that complimentary retirement consultation that Jimmy is offering our first 5 callers today. 702-744-8344 is that number for you. I want you to get on Jimmy's calendar as soon as you can, and spots will fill up. So that number for you again, 702-744-8344. One last time, write it down, 702-744-8344, or online at rightpathwealthmanagement.com. That is going to do it for us this week. We will be back next week, same time, same place. with more great insight from certified financial planner Jimmy Lynn here on The Right Path to Retirement. Take care.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Right Path Wealth Management. Right Path Wealth Management is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Right Path Wealth Management are not subject to investment advisory requirements. Investing involves risk, including potential loss of principal. Any reference to the protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This radio podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It's not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decision, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Right Path Wealth Management is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Right Path Wealth Management. Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.